The movie opens with William, a young man, gazing out of a ship's window as it sails across the sea. Soon after, we're introduced to Professor Julian delivering a lecture on the evolution of Neanderthals. He explains that when fossils of human-like creatures were first discovered, people believed they could judge one's intelligence and level of civilization based solely on their appearance. Neanderthals, in particular, were often dismissed as dumb and uncivilized. Professor Julian goes on to explain that the only non-fossilized Neanderthal remains are preserved on their campus, initially discovered by his superior, Dr. Goodwin Thomas, who named them William. Barbara Sullivan, a medical doctor specializing in reproductive endocrinology, enters the classroom and observes the lecture from the sidelines. Meanwhile, Julian mentions that there is still much to uncover about the true potential of Neanderthals. Despite significant discoveries made through William's fossilized remains, he suggests a radical idea of utilizing its DNA to clone a living Neanderthal to gain further insights. Later that evening, Barbara finds Julian sitting alone at a restaurant and decides to join him. She brings up the idea of potentially cloning a Neanderthal, and confidently claims that she knows how to do it. She explains the entire process, which is revealed to be possible, but challenging and costly. When Barbara asks why Julian is interested in Neanderthals, he brings her to his lab. Inside, he shows her a variety of ancient specimens, focusing particularly on ancient stone tools made by both humans and Neanderthals. Over the next few years, Barbara and Julian fall in love and become the most influential couple among the university professors. They also start the project to clone a Neanderthal with the university's approval. Unfortunately, this sparks a big discussion about whether it's ethically right to use DNA to bring back an extinct species. The university faculty is divided, with some thinking it's a crazy idea to clone Neanderthals, while others see potential for valuable insights from the project. Ultimately, the university president, Bob Claiborne, consults with Dr. Thomas and decides to stop the cloning project altogether. Despite this setback, Barbara and Julian refuse to give up on their project. They decide to continue despite the odds, with Barbara even volunteering to carry the fetus herself. The couple then gets married in Nevada, where Barbara gives birth to a healthy baby Neanderthal named William. The nurses are surprised by the newborn's unique facial features. Julian heads to the university to inform Bob about their success and announces a news conference. However, Bob is furious since Barbara and Julian used university funds to continue the project, which had been shut down. In a meeting with his colleagues, Bob considers firing them. More distant from Barbara and William, he begins to feel like an outsider in their lives. One day, while Julian is working in his lab, he receives an unexpected visit from Dr. Goodwin Thomas, his former mentor. Dr. Thomas expresses his concerns about the ethical implications of studying William, reminding Julian that he's not just a scientific curiosity, but a living being with emotions and rights. Julian listens, but remains firm in his belief that studying William could unlock crucial insights into human evolution. Meanwhile, William continues to struggle with fitting into society. Despite his remarkable physical abilities and strong immune system, he finds it hard to navigate social situations and often feels like an outcast. Barbara does her best to support him, but she worries about his future and the challenges he'll face as a Neanderthal living in a modern world. As William grows older, he becomes increasingly curious about his Neanderthal heritage. He spends hours researching online, trying to understand his identity and where he belongs. However, the more he learns, the more he realizes how misunderstood and misrepresented Neanderthals are in the media and popular culture. One day, while biking in the woods, William encounters a group of teenagers who mock him and call him names. They chase him, intent on causing harm, but William's strength and agility allow him to defend himself. However, The incident leaves him shaken and disillusioned with humanity. Back at home, Barbara tries to comfort William, urging him to stay strong and not let the ignorance of others define him. She encourages him to focus on his studies and pursue his passions, assuring him that he has a bright future ahead. Meanwhile, Julian's relationship with Sarah begins to unravel. As he becomes increasingly consumed by his work, he spends long hours in the lab, neglecting both Sarah and his responsibilities as a father. Sarah tries to reach out to him, but Julian remains distant and preoccupied. As tensions rise between them, Julian finds himself torn between his devotion to science and his desire to reconnect with his family. He realizes that he's been neglecting his son and vows to make amends. But it may be too late to repair the damage that's been done. In the end, William must navigate the complexities of his identity and find his place in a world that often fears and misunderstands him. And Julian must confront the consequences of his choices and reconcile with the loved ones he's pushed away. As they each struggle to find their way, they discover that true acceptance and belonging can only come from within his own person, not as a subject of experimentation. Julian is disappointed but respects his son's decision, albeit reluctantly. As William prepares for college, he faces challenges both academically and socially. Despite his intelligence and unique abilities, he struggles with standardized tests and finds it difficult to connect with his peers. Judy, the girl he helped with her lines for the play, remains a supportive friend. But William can't shake off the feeling of being different. Meanwhile, tensions between Julian and Barbara reach a breaking point. Barbara is adamant about protecting William from being exploited by Julian's research, while Julian sees William's potential as a scientific opportunity. Their conflicting views on William's future strain their relationship even further. On William's 18th birthday, he grapples with the weight of decision-making for his future. His parents, despite their differences, sit down with him to discuss his options. Julian once again presents the idea of returning to the lab for further research, highlighting the potential benefits for humanity. However, Barbara opposes this, emphasizing William's autonomy and right to choose his own path. In the end, William decides to pursue a university education, but on his own terms. He expresses his desire to earn his place through hard work and dedication, without being treated as a mere subject of scientific curiosity. His decision marks a turning point in his relationship with his parents, and sets him on a journey of self-discovery and independence. As William embarks on this new chapter of his life, he faces uncertainty and challenges, but also the opportunity to carve out his own identity and make a difference in the world. And while his future may still be uncertain, one thing is clear: William is determined to chart his own course and define his own destiny. Student Julian is delighted to hear this, and offers his support in preparing for the entrance exams. Returning to the present, Julian is disheartened to see little improvement in William's test scores. Frustrated, he directs his anger towards Sarah and blames her for not adequately teaching his son. In a fit of rage, Julian throws away the paper before abruptly leaving the house without a word. William finds himself overwhelmed with emotion, unable to do anything but cry. Sarah tries to console him by assuring him that his scores are actually decent. She then suggests they take a walk in the woods together to clear their heads during their walk. Sarah explains that Julian's outburst was likely caused by the stress he's facing at work. She then opens up about her own upbringing, recounting how her parents used to punish her for anything less than an A. They even pressured her to take numerous extra classes and had mapped out her entire life for her. This led Sarah to resent them, but with time, she came to understand that her parents were only trying to help her. They were trying to do what they believed was best for Sarah, much like Julian's intentions. towards William out of the blue. William and Sarah share a, during which he's labeled as a Neanderthal. He immediately interrupts and confronts his father's derogatory remarks, including being called unintelligent, primitive, and a caveman. Julian then tries to silence William, claiming it's not the right time or place for an argument. He then responds, bluntly calling Julian and his work failures. In response, Julian snaps back that William is the one who's a failure, but instantly regrets his words. After their discussion, Julian follows his son outside to make amends, but he refuses. Instead, William asserts that Julian isn't his real father, leading Julian to slap him in frustration. He then drops the Neanderthal stone he's been holding on to, and as Julian reaches for it, he lashes out and ends up attacking his father with the very stone. Overwhelmed, he runs away while Sarah and Barbara, along with the patrolling police, search for him. As William exits the university, both Sarah and the police spot him. Despite her attempts to reach him, the police prevent her and disregard her pleas. Shortly after, the police surround William's lifeless body, likely having shot him for not complying with their orders. The movie wraps up with Sarah visiting the excavation site of the Neanderthal while holding a small child, most likely William's.